Welcome to A Diary of a Professional Tennis Coach with Mark Gellard and Candy Reid, sponsored by the ERT 300. Well, a warm welcome to the latest Diary of a Professional Tennis Coach, and I am so happy, so delighted, so enamoured with my partner in crime today. It is Alexandra. To give her full name, you might know her as Alex Dulgheru. Alex, we've commentated together for the WTA. I think we both enjoyed it. I certainly did. We had a lot of fun. So thank you very much for coming on the podcast. And how are you?
No, for me, it's a huge pleasure, and thank you for having me. I think it's really cool for me to do this because we got to tell our listeners about our shenanigans and our stories. And when we're commentating tennis matches, we simply cannot talk too much about our stories, and because it's not a podcast. So there's many times when I want to say more things, but then the point starts and we cannot talk over the points, and there's so many stories that I would love to share. I mean, sometimes I am, but I can't overgo and just talk about me. But now it's a good time to just let it go.
We gave it a good go, didn't we? We had a lot of chats. Of course, you're right. During television commentary, you are not meant to speak over the points. So perhaps you and I should do radio.
Oh my God, I would talk nonstop. If I have a bottle of water by my side or a glass of water, I can keep on going and going and going and going and never stop.
And that is kind of the point on radio, is to talk, because dead air
Right.
doesn't make great radio, to be quite honest.
You
So
know what a
you've been
friend told me?
perfect.
I said, You're the best. You're a genius." He said, "Alex, do you realize that you have the best job in the world?" I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "You're a woman alone in a booth with a microphone, and you can talk for hours and no one will ever interrupt you. That's like the dream job for every woman." I was like, I never thought about it that way, but you're actually right.
You're so right. I say that I have verbal diarrhea a lot.
Verbal diarrhea. I love it. I love it. I love it. But I mean, for me to commentate in England has been and still is an incredible experience, because I think the British commentators have the best commentaries, because you have the language, you have the expressions, you have the elegancy of the language itself. And now I can, because some of the voices um, that I heard on the background, I never put a face on them. And now commentating for WTA TV, I kind of am able to do that, and it's simply an honor for me, to be able to commentate with you guys. And I'm learning a lot from your expressions and everything. I just come up with my stories and I learn from you guys, and you're so positive. Even when things go wrong on court, you just want to say like, "Oh my God, like, what is she doing?" Right? And you're like, she just didn't have the best day at the office today. It's fine. She'll do better next time. It's probably a rainy day. She's just a little bit moody.
We do it with the head wiggle as well. Tend to do that all the time, the head wiggle. I find that
Right.
works really well. What did you think of commentators when you were playing tennis?
Well, it depends where you are. I think that British commentators, American commentators, I mean, there's a professionalism when it comes to commentating. And even though someone has a bad day at the office, you got to respect the work they're putting on, and you try to be understanding and empathetic, correct?
Yep.
And I always found it very professional and coming with a lot of insights. Having that sparkling with humor, uh, a little bit of drama, a lot of information. So a little bit of everything. I love that when when they combine it with not only giggles, not only too serious, not only too boring. It's a bit of everything, and I always find it enticing. And I always thought that after my tennis career ends, I would love to have the possibility to commentate alongside some of these big names, and I love it.
Well, the insight you bring as a very recently former tennis player is unique because, of course, you've played so many of the players that are currently playing. Just before we started, I was writing the graphics for our YouTube coverage, which, of course, you don't see on the audible version of the podcast. But I just thought to myself, gosh, you've played with Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova, who's currently playing in Madrid at the time of recording. It's just been the second day of Madrid action at the 1000 in 2025. Pavlyuchenkova seems to be slightly on her last legs, but she's been around a long time, and you have
Well,
played with all these players. It's
yeah.
incredible.
I played with many of them. Sometimes I forget because nowadays it's kind of weird when I'm. First of all, let's go back a little bit and just tell you how the transition has been for me. So officially, I haven't retired. I will. I mean, I haven't played since 2021, but I
Yeah.
really want to make like a very nice event and call out some names from abroad. So I'm still working on that. I hope it happens this year, maximum next year. I don't want to wait for too long because I think already a lot of time has passed since I last played my last tournament. Um, but it was a little bit weird because when you're a tennis player, you focus a lot on yourself and the things you have to do. You have to be a little bit selfish, not in a bad way, but you have to be, in order to
Yes.
perform. And it's all about you. When I started commentating and doing media, it was as if I never really existed anymore,
Mm.
or because you have to give your insights, but you count like 10, 20%, but the rest is about the other players, to talk about them and to put them in the spotlight and to try and bring color to those names who are in front of you. And for me at first, it was very difficult because not because I was generally I've never been like a really selfish player. I've been kind of open like the way I am right now. But the terms in which I ended my career were not my terms.
Yeah.
Um, I because I wanted to play for a couple more years, but because of my injuries, I had tons of injuries. That was my Achilles tendon, and all of a sudden in 2021, I was coming back again from another surgery, and I was doing really well. I just needed 2, 3 more tournaments to be in qualities for the U.S. Open, and I had another surgery this time around on the right knee. So I had 4 left knee surgeries, or five, I don't remember, 4 or 5. One right knee surgery. And when I got into the right one, I said, stop. It's too much. It's too much hustle physically, mentally, emotionally. I mean, I don't know how I did it,
Yeah.
coming back from scratch every single time. It was very hard. Um, and then I said to myself, I said, what am I going to do? Not because I've always had passions, but I just didn't know what to do at that present moment. I said, I got to start somewhere to build up, my future after tennis, after being on court. So at first, what really saved me was going to my sister's place. She's living in US. I visited her and my nephew, and I stayed there for almost a year. That
Hmm.
was actually my transition, because I think if I would have come back home in Bucharest, it would have killed me, because I would have
Yeah.
thought about my tennis and my comebacks and all those thoughts wandering around. Whereas there, I had a bit of distraction and family time. Um, but then I started commentating more because I said I want to build up more exercise commentating and everything. But I was still fresh out of. I still wanted to compete. So when I was commentating all these girls on TV, mostly the ones I was playing with all the time, and I'm talking mostly about the ones I was beating. And I said I was supposed to be there and play against this girl, and now
Yeah.
I have to put her in the spotlight and you know make her important and big and flashy. And it's like I don't mind doing that, but it was kind of hurting my feelings because I knew my place wasn't there yet. I knew I was
Yeah.
going to be there, but not at that present moment. So it took me a little bit to um to finally adapt, or not to adapt, to accept, and that being just my job and not bothering me anymore.
Yeah.
So
It's
it was
interesting, isn't it?
a little bit of hustle, just because I didn't end it on my own terms. If I
Yeah,
would
I
have
can
ended it
understand.
when I wanted to, I would have been like, I'm done with tennis. I did my things. I'm very happy,
Yeah.
satisfied. I want to hang my racket, and I just want to enjoy life. But I was in a moment, I was like, man, I was coming back again, and coming back from the COVID. And because I already waited for almost a year to come back, then COVID hit. The moment I was ready to go and compete. I was going to go to 15Ks somewhere in
Yeah.
Turkey, Antalya. And I signed myself up for the tournament, and all of a sudden the COVID hits, and there's code red everywhere. and I had to stop for almost another year. So 2 years, okay, 2 years on the sidelines. And then I started playing. I don't know where I had because so many players quit, during pandemic. I know where I had the motivation to keep on going.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, one more year practicing. At times, I didn't know what I was practicing for anymore. So again,
Oh,
practicing. I'm going to get a diploma at the end of my practice for what? Because I'm not playing any tournaments. And and then I started, and somehow it it went really well. It's like, oh, okay, it goes well, and I still had the energy and the good, the goodwill to keep on going. And I think in the end, after all these obstacles in my way, I think that I really like tennis. Otherwise, I would have never done
mhm.
it. After the third surgery or so, I would have quit because nobody pushed me at some point. I think after my third surgery, my parents were like, Alex, you know what? We know you put a lot of work in it, it's your passion. But look, you don't want to end up being so broken. You still
Yeah.
have a life after tennis. You still want to have a healthy, relatively healthy body, you can count on. And I told them, I said, I'm not ready yet. I mean, I put in so much effort. Okay, it's not going to be as pink as I thought it was going to be, or maybe I'm not going to be the top 20 or top 30 anymore, but I can still be top 70, maybe top 50. I can still be there and compete. I mean, I put in so much energy since I was 4. It's
Yes.
my identity right now, and I want to give it a go till the end. And they were like, yeah, okay, but I could see that they were suffering as well because they were seeing something that I refused to see. And because I kept on playing, I think I had 3 or 4 more surgeries.
Sounds like a
So
real headache. We had Wes Koolhof, the now retired Dutch doubles player, on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he said there are 3 ways of retiring. One, you go out on your terms. Two, you go out, with injury. Three, you're just not good enough. And he said he went out on the best way possible because he essentially ended Rafa Nadal's career by beating Spain in the Davis Cup. So
right, right.
what a way to do it. But you're right, most people don't get that happy ending, do they? But your happy ending is that you moved into commentary broadcasting. I believe you're also a painter. I've read you're a mixed media artist. What is that?
Oh my, yeah, I told you I have a lot of hobbies. Um, can you wait for 30 seconds? I'm going to bring in some of my paintings.
Go
30
for it.
seconds. Now that you mention it,
All
hold on.
right. We'll keep the excitement going here. Alex Dulgheru will be right back. Former world number 30 on Diary of a Professional Tennis Coach. No Mark Gellard because he and Magda are currently in Madrid. Magda is seeded and has a tough draw, but overall it's been a really good season now that they've added Aga Radvanska
I'm
to
back.
Team Lynette. As we welcome back Alex, who is a mixed media artist, and she's bringing in some of her talented work. Can you lift it up for me so
I
we can
have
see?
another one, but I don't know where it is. But this is my
Let's do
latest.
one at a time. Oh, that's very good. That is exceptional.
Thank you.
No, that's very, very talented. Very talented. How long did that take you?
It took me around 3 months, I think. I did it last year.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm doing. I'm just searching up images on the internet. And let's say I feel like painting um, maybe a seaside or a garden, or
Yeah.
so it depends what I feel like painting. I just search it up, and then I combine a few images together, and I take a little bit of this from there, a little bit of that from
Oh,
there. And this was, I think, in Australia somewhere, and I did it during the Australian Open. And I said,
very good.
I
Are
just feel
you
like doing
selling your
it.
work or is it just for you?
Oh, it's just for me. I love it. I discovered that I had talent drawing and painting. I also sketch a lot. Next time I'll be more prepared because I didn't know we were going to talk about this. I had it since I think at 6 years old. I discovered that I love drawing. If tennis wasn't going to be for me, I was going to go into art school for sure,
Okay.
probably architecture or something that had to do with drawings and paintings. And then I used it for being a part of myself. It just transports me in a different world and
Yes.
mindset, and it's just me and the whole creation, and I'm just focusing on it. But it's a calm focus. It's not like a struggle. and it kind of flows. It flows. Sometimes I get tired and then I need a break because then it feels like work. It doesn't feel
Yes.
like fun at that point. But it's something that like it really represents me. I love putting that whatever I feel into a painting. But sometimes I don't think, and many times I don't think it's gonna end up, so good, because I feel like, because when you're looking in a close up, you just see some lines because you're thinking about it. Oh, I need this angle here. I need that. I think I need to put a little bit more color. And you're thinking that it's not going to look good. But then you go back a little bit. You're like, oh, it's not that bad. Maybe I just need a little bit more color. I go back up close. And then, so I do this all the time to understand where I am. And in
It's
the
such a
end,
creative gene you've got. I wonder, where did the tennis come from? Because your parents are sort of in the flight industry, aren't they? Your father is a pilot, mum works in that industry as well. So where do you get your sporting talent? Where have you got your artistic talent from?
I think I got a bit of both from my parents, because my parents have creative hands as well. It's just that they never did any school or anything. I didn't do any school. I mean, I'm pretty sure that if I would take some classes, I would understand how to mix colors better, or
Yeah.
how to do like graphically a little bit easier. I just do it by eye, and sometimes I don't get the proportions right. So I would love to go to school just to understand some basics. My father is more into, let's say, graphic, and more mathematical drawings, and he draws really, really well. And my mom is more creative and artistic. So I got that from my parents. And my mom in the garden. We have a beautiful garden. I mean, they both shape the garden like in a very nice way, because they look up into magazines or YouTube, and they're
Yeah.
like, oh, I would love to do that, and they start doing it if they like something, like the way I'm doing with my painting. So I think, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
you've
where I
got it
got
from
it
there.
from. And with sports, mom is more, let's say, more comfortable. She doesn't like to do too much sports, but my dad is very athletic. Yeah, he used to be a pilot. He retired in 2010. But as a pilot, you kind of need to have a sort of a good, physical shape. And he's always been this kind of person, even before he knew he wanted to be a pilot. He knew he wanted to be healthy, so he would just go run around, do some push-ups or whatever. In the morning, we're like, young girls. We didn't know what we wanted to do in life. And like, I don't know, 8 years old or 7 years old. And dad was like, because I have an older sister, she's 4 years older. He was like knocking at the door on a Sunday, and he was like, girls, come on, we gotta go run, because we have like a very nice tennis club really close by. And there's a lake that surrounds it, and I think it's 6 or 8 kilometers. And they're like, okay, let's go for the whole lap of the lake. I'm like, dad, but it's Sunday morning. I said, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You know what? If you wake up early morning, and you start doing things early, you're gonna achieve so much by noon. You're gonna see like, oh my god, dad, the same story every time. It's like I would just want to go to sleep. So he kind of had this ethic of work, and not being lazy, for sure.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist in his vocabulary, and I think he installed that into my sister and I.
Emma Navarro tells a similar story. I think she's one of four. And she said that her father, Ben, who of course is the businessman that owns the Charleston and the Cincinnati tournament, used to take them on bike rides, and they used to hate him about halfway through because they'd have a slope to go up like this and there was no way out of it. And she said that really has helped her in her career now. It's amazing, isn't it? Those early things that you learn from your parents that you don't even know are actually going to help you in the
And
long
it
run.
takes a while by the time you realize that, at first you hate it. You're like, "Who this is so unnecessary." And then when things start to work for you, you're like, oh my God, I'm so thankful for my parents that they did this
Yeah.
for us when we were at that age, because we didn't know what, was good or what wasn't good. We just thought that it was torture.
And it was.
But it paid off. It paid off for sure. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit now about coaching. I'd love to know about your various coaches, how you picked a coach when you were younger. Who was the best coach you had in your career?
That's a very good question. And I think, so first of all, in order for someone to be successful, I mean, you cannot determine if you're going to be successful or not. I mean, it comes from the genes as well. It comes from, I don't know, from destiny a little bit. But with work ethic, more and more nowadays, it's more about hard work than talent. I mean, of course, you need a little bit of talent, but talent is maybe 30% right now, and 70% is all the hard work. So, I think first it has to come from the kid, the family, to really want to do something, because there's many kids out there that just want to go and have a little bit of fun. They don't want to put in the work.
Yeah.
So you got to find out the ones who want to put in the work. That's the first and most important thing. And second, the team around you, starting from your parents and who is shaping you, to become the best version of yourself. And I think that's so important and so tricky in the same time, because there's not many like really great coaches out there that you can say like, wow, they're incredible.
Yeah.
I'll give my kid to him in his hands 100% without, because when you're a first time parent giving your kid to any kind of sport, you just don't know anything about it, and if someone says, look, well, he's a good coach or whatever, and the coach just starts, filling up your head with all these things, and you're like, oh my god, you listen to him like god. It's like, yeah, yeah, he knows what he's doing, like 100%, like, oh, the kid has to play for 7 hours, yeah, that's what you have to do,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, it's a little bit of luck as well, if to see where you're born, how many good coaches you have in your area. I think it's a lot about luck as well. So yeah, the coach has to be, is, I don't know, 70% of this whole development. I think it comes from the coach. And you need to have several coaches in your lifetime. You need to have a coach as a kid, and until you're, I don't know, 10, 12, or 13. From 13 onwards, another coach. And then when you're 18, 17, 18, one of those coaches who knows how the pro level goes, or has more idea of how it goes. So they have to pass on the baton. Is that the word?
Yes, pass on the
You
baton is good.
have to pass on the baton, because it's hard to find a coach who knows it all, who's good at kids and juniors,
Yeah.
and then,
It's very
so
rare.
it's very rare, and it's too much. I don't think a coach can focus on that large of a span.
Yeah.
um So, in my case here, because I was born in Bucharest, in the capital, I think I was more lucky than maybe other players who were born in other cities. So there's plenty to choose from. But I mean, till today, I think I would just say maximum 10 coaches are good. Like really, 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 really good to get you from juniors to seniors.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the others don't know tennis, but like really, really good in a way that they can cover more areas. They know how to
Correct.
do a good periodization. They have, let's say, a good emotional support, because they need to be like a sponge a little bit to understand you, to understand how you are, what's your game style, how creative you are. Are you the one who's like an alpha player who likes to smash everything and play like that way, or are you a type of player who likes to build up the point and create? And I think a good coach understands, or gets to understand, the kid they're coaching and what their assets are, and manages to focus on those assets. In my case, I think, I mean, I had good coaches, growing up. I think I got a bit of everything from every coach that I had. One thing that I think it's a certainty is that it's not good to have too many coaches. You get
Because there's
lost.
too many ideas.
Too many ideas, too many opinions. One says to do, to start your forehand like this. The other one says, no, you got to start it like this. The other one says, I don't know what, just lower or up. And then you get so
Yeah.
messed up in your head. So, some players are lucky. They had maybe a few coaches, and I think those are the most successful ones. They had a coach for like 4 or 5 years, and then they changed it, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And so, you have time to implement what the coach is trying to do with you. It's important to find a good chemistry, because sometimes some coaches are good, but maybe they're not good for you. Maybe
Yeah.
that message doesn't, go inside you, and you don't capture it as well as maybe other players will. In my case, I think the coach that I felt most comfortable with, And the one that brought me to number 25 in the world was Daniel Dobre. I think you know the name because
I do.
he was on tour as well with Simona, I think, when she won Wimbledon. And I went to him after high school. I remember I was always a good junior. Then I had some injuries and I was focusing a lot on finishing school. It was very important for me. And that year I kind of dropped the level a little bit because school was more important. And then when I was finished with school, I was so happy and relieved um, because our focus was not only tennis, was also school. Our parents said we don't care about it. I mean, school is number one and tennis number two, because if something happens in tennis, you need to have a good background, and you need to
Wow.
be able to do something else.
That's
Obviously
very
at some,
rare, isn't it, amongst
it is
professional
rare.
tennis players?
It is rare, and at first, the same story. When we were at that age, we thought it was a little bit too much effort to go with school and tennis. I didn't really have a social life. I sometimes wanted to go out with kids and my colleagues and go out for a tea or a coffee or whatever. It wasn't happening. That was a luxury for me, because
Yeah.
I had my practices. I had school. I had homework and private lessons. And after a
Right.
certain level, when I had to start traveling more with tennis, I was going to school maybe 30-40% of the times, but I had books with me. And when I was coming home, I was going to private lessons, a lot of private
Mhm.
lessons. Like my mom was always joking afterwards. She was like, "Oh my God, with the amount of investments we did with you girls, into we put into school, we would have bought probably 2 or 3 houses by now." But
It
it
sounds like a
definitely,
really well-rounded household, though, which is quite surprising, just given what we know on the WTA tour. It seems like almost all the women who play have one very dominant parent who's really pushing.
yeah. I mean, look, I'm not saying that it's because it's not easy. It's not easy. We didn't have time to breathe. But one thing's for certain, I would never drop school. One way or another, even if you do it at a lower level, do not drop school,
Yeah.
because school also helps you. So first of all, it's very important for social kind of development, but
Mhm.
also teaches you how to think, how to be good at problem solving, how to be creative, right? All of that. So you're not going to remember a lot of the things that you're learning by part in biology, history, or whatever. You're going to forget a lot of those, but it's how you work your brain. That I found it that in my case, it helped me in tennis as well. I helped that school, and putting in the effort in school helped me, be more focused and more concentrated, more find better solutions, not panicking that easily in tennis as well. And when I saw that even better after I finished school and I had time to focus just on tennis, and here we're going back to Dobre. I think in when I finished school in 6 months, I was already top 100. I won more show. I went from 400, 500 to doing really well in some ITF tournaments. I went and played that summer of 2009, the qualies of my first WTA tournament. I went all the way to the final. I won the
Wow.
whole thing, and it was like a fairy tale story that came true, because after I finished school, high school, my parents, obviously, being considerate parents and responsible, they were like, "Alex, we know you can play well and stuff, but it's also very risky. It's a risky business to try and become a pro. Like, have you ever thought of maybe going to college?" And I was like, at first, I was a little bit upset when they asked me that. I was like, I can't believe you're asking me this. Like, do you think I'm not good enough? Do you think I'm not good enough to become a pro? Like, that doesn't exist. Like, I've always dreamt about this and it will happen. I will do it. And now thinking about those times, like, where did I have the confidence from? Because it wasn't based on much, really,
Yeah.
Um, and I just wanted to do it. And in 6 months, it happens. Like, wow, it's crazy how,
It's
when
the
you
right
have a
decision.
certain energy or destiny or whatever you want to call it. Because for me it was a fairy tale. I don't know how it happened. But it wasn't, at first, because you know how people are. When you have a really good result, they think that it was just a coincidence. It's like, oh, it was a fluke, right? But no, it happened because after high school, I started going to this club where Dobre was a coach. And for the first time in my life, I thought I was organized when I was doing my, because I'm very considerate with my warming up, with everything. I thought I was very organized. And then I came to this coach, and and he started doing things in a certain way. I was like, oh my God, this coach is crazy, you know, because he was very organized, first of all, but I don't know, during let's say a week from Monday to Saturday, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, we had warm-ups that lasted more than an hour.
Wow.
Then we had the proper tennis, which was probably 2 hours or whatever it was. Then more tennis in the afternoon. The next day, just one session of tennis, but a longer session of fitness, and so on, right? So the first time around, when I did that week, I was so exhausted at the end of that week. No, I was exhausted after the first day when we did 1 hour of warm up. I was like, how can you do 1 hour of warm up? Like that's full physical training. I was going in tennis. I was, you know, but that was a really good build up for the future me as a tennis player, and you know, in the end I realized that he wasn't crazy. Of course I didn't do that all the time, you know, warming up for an hour, but he came up with some principles that were so interesting. He lived a lot in Austria, Germany, Turkey, so he came with, mostly from Germany and Austria, he came with some very good setups and good mentality. And he was explaining to me why we had to do the warm up in a certain way, why you had to do this before that, why don't you start with that and you start with the other thing, right? And everything had an order. You do step one, step two, step three. And I was like, wow, okay. You know, I said, I'm gonna shut up. My ego is I'm gonna hang it on, you know, like in the front door. I'm gonna listen to him and see if it works. If it doesn't work, I'm gonna start commentating, right?
Yep.
And I shut up. I started doing things. Oh my God, it worked so well for me because he was so organized. He was thinking in perspective. So he was thinking like that's why I'm talking about periodization. He was thinking about on a long term, medium term, and short term. So he was explaining to us why we had to do things in a certain way. It had logic with the way the muscles work, the way the body, mind works, whatever. And and then I said, okay, I think it kind of works. You know, he started structuring my game a little bit better because it was a little bit all over the place at that point. And he was like, okay, Alex, you're a very creative person. Okay, let's use that creativeness and let's make drills that boost that, right? And let's work a little bit on whatever you're not feeling. And slowly, you know, building up like this week by week, week by week, I started feeling the results already at the first tournaments that I played. You know, if at the
Wow.
beginning it was a little bit shaky, but then it started working. Oh my God. And in a few months, I was, you know, I went to making a final at a 75. Then I won a 25 by myself. Then I went and did another final somewhere. Then I did another semifinal at 100,000. And then from that semifinal, I lost to Wickmeyer. I went straight to Warsaw. I barely caught the train and the flight together. I got there on a Saturday morning when I had to play. I was absolutely exhausted. I was lucky that it rained and I didn't play. I had to play the next day 2 matches. I played 2 matches of 3 hours, and yeah, so 6 hours in total. And I had to play the last round of qualies on Monday, and that was my fairy tale story, right? So it went all the way till the end. But um, what I'm trying to say is that it wasn't just a coincidence. So it was my passion and desire, um, completed by someone who had a good idea, who knew how to organize and build a player. And all that organized work paid off, because if I wouldn't have been that organized or someone working on me that way, I would have never done that. And for me, it worked because this kind of coach, for other players, he was a little bit too, oh, thumbs up. Yeah. For other players, he was a little bit too much, you know, too organized, you know, too tough. But for me, it was perfect because he organized me, and from that moment onwards, I I I kept everything that he taught me. Even today, you know, when I'm warming up, and it's just part of my subconscious. I'm doing all those things all the time.
Wow, that's incredible. So thumbs up to Daniel Dobre. Uh, Obviously, he
He's very
helped you and helped Simona. Um, so let's talk about what you might do differently now. If you look back at your career, I know you had all the knee problems. Would you do something differently to prevent that? Would you do something differently so you could be a top 20 player, a major champion? And you've done unbelievably well, top 25 in the world in the hardest sport for women and the biggest sport for women is just incredible. It's mind blowing. I got nowhere near. but just there's always things that you perhaps could have done a little bit better.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for it's nice to hear someone appreciate, your work. You know how it is.
Oh, I know I'm a
And
failed tennis player, and I know that I worked pretty hard, and I didn't get anywhere close. So I can't
yes,
imagine the level that you were really.
I think the term failed is not the right term because so many things have to connect in order to
Yes,
to get there. I know really great talented Romanian players that never got where they could have been
yeah,
because they didn't have the financial support, or I don't know, it was just they were lacking support behind them. I think some of the players that, both girls and boys that we used to play with when we were 10, 11, I think they were even better than we were. They just did not have the right support. So a lot
yeah.
of things have to connect. Uh, what was the question again?
Well, there's a good point you bring up because luck is a huge factor, and as you said, meeting the right people, having the right parents, doing the right thing, living perhaps close enough to tennis courts, that helps as well. What would you do differently though in your career?
Well, differently, yeah. So, well, first of all, what people might wonder why I broke so many times physically. Well, the paradox is that physically, going to doctors and stuff, they told me that I always had good physicality, good muscles, good quality of the body itself. But the problem was that, in those times, they didn't know the things that are
Yeah,
really, efficient today. So the best fitness coaches, the best tennis coaches, they knew that things had to be done a certain way. Mostly when you're part from the eastern side of Europe, coaches had that kind of mentality where you have to work really hard. You have to work really hard. If you don't puke after a practice, I mean, I'm exaggerating, but if you don't puke after a practice, that means that you haven't practiced well. So
yeah,
they kind of installed the mentality that every practice you have to go full, but full like to exhaustion. And I was the type because I always had this kind of ADHD energy about me, and I really loved being jumping around all the time. If my parents are always telling me, hey, if the coach tells you to play for 3 hours, you play for 3 hours. If he tells you to do whatever the coach tells you, never answer back to the coach, which in a way was good, to have the respect, but another way I didn't think it helped because there were
yeah,
moments when I really feel like I was struggling or it was painful, and I just shut up and didn't say anything. So the problem at that time is that they did too much, and that's it's not really their fault because this is how
that's
they
all
were
they knew.
taught as well in those
Yeah,
times. So the problem was that we were doing a lot in tennis, then the tennis coaches and the physical trainers weren't really communicating too much. And I was telling the fitness coach, I was like, hey, I played for 3 hours, we did so many things, like a lot of
yeah,
resilience and stuff. We're doing the same thing in fitness. Okay, we're going to keep on doing more resilience, right? So after 3 hours of tennis, we'd go and do more like laps of the whole track and field, or jumping up and down like a football stadium on up and down the stairs, and it was a little bit we call it hey roop here in
yeah.
Romania. That means that it's like you go by the by whatever. It wasn't the plan wasn't really strategically
Bit of a
done.
mismatch. It sounds like
Right. So
with whoever was
everybody was
thinking
kind of
about it.
all together, and you have to do it. Now everybody has to do resilience. Now everybody has to do this kind of sprints. Now everybody at a, till a certain point, that's fine because you need to build up. Athletics needs to be the base at the beginning, so you understand the motions, and the brain starts to get used to. That's fine.
Yes,
But then after a certain age, let's say after 12, 13 onwards, you have to be more specific. So we had to go more into tennis specifics, but it was still a lot of athletics. We're running track and field like I was
mhm,
gonna go run a marathon. We're doing all those stairs like I was gonna go jump like a kangaroo. And that broke me in the end because I was very thin. Like you saw me when I became professional, and I had my muscles and stuff, but I had to build those muscles. I was like
yeah,
this. I was very thin. And imagine doing all those jumps up and down, the knees like this in an X, and touching all that. I can imagine like the stress
yeah.
on the joints was huge. So that was my problem in the end, the joints. I had my first surgery was actually patella tendon half broken on my left knee, but
Oof,
that was because a lot of stress. And then it was all the joints, the cartilage. Once I started going into the cartilage, that was my undoing. So it was cartilage, then the second surgery was meniscus, then double cartilage, then meniscus and cartilage. So
Ah,
it was all a big soup there that I never managed to solve. And I still did good because I managed to recover really well. And slowly, the new recovery, science and just science behind tennis and how to recover, how to perform, I started to understand it better, and I started doing things as well as I could. And I saw the results of that. But problem was that I started doing it a little bit too late. I
yeah,
already did the damage too much at the beginning. And then when I started finally doing things the right way, it was a little bit too late. It was
yeah.
so that's what I would do differently. But I didn't know anything back then. You're a kid. You're not supposed to know it. You're supposed to listen to someone who knows what he's doing.
Right. And you're hoping that they know you. But as you said, the science wasn't up to date like it is now. If you were
The
playing at
Eastern
this point,
mentality was different than the Western. The Western were more
yeah,
based on you gotta like it at first. You gotta be, which I think is very good. Let the kid play, let the kid enjoy. Let's focus on technique to have a clean technique, and then later on we're gonna focus on results.
yeah.
That's why Romanian juniors and Eastern Europeans usually are very, very good at juniors because they're good already when they're really young, but
Yeah.
then they get worn out mentally and physically, and then when they have to perform at the highest level, they're already done. They're like, oh, too much
Oh, that's
pressure, too
interesting.
much tennis, too much.
Yeah, that's very interesting. But I think coming from the soft West, we had our national coach was Olga Morozova, a Russian woman, of course, a Wimbledon finalist, and she was so tough, and it was a big eye opener, I think, for the British girls because we'd never really heard anybody shouting at us like that, and we needed a little bit of that. So I think there's a balance that needs to be there.
You need a
I'd love
balance.
you. Yeah, balance is good. You don't want to be too soft, I think, in the world. I'd love you to put together your perfect player. So let's start with the player that you played, perhaps that had a forehand that you would have loved to backhand, and let's go from there. So who would
Perfect
you have as
player,
your forehand?
a woman or a man?
Let's go for a woman.
Oh,
The
nice.
best forehand.
I would go. Wow, that's a good question. First one that comes in mind is Justina Nan. Justina Nan's
Yes.
forehand. I was kind
We're
of
going with the
looking
forehand.
up to her when I was starting to become a pro. Um, I would say the backhand of Kim Clijsters.
Okay. So you've gone Belgium so far.
I
What
go I
about
go Belgium
serve?
apparently. Yeah. Serve, 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 serve. Oh, that's a good one. Um, that's a good one. There's a lot of great servers out there. I like Karolina Muhova's serve.
Okay, we'll go with
Serve.
Mukova. And then what about the volleys?
Slice, I would go with the slice of Ash Barty or same Justina Nan.
Yeah.
Um, what else did you say? The volley?
Volley. Let's go with volley now.
Volley. Who's coming to the net really often? Um, that's a good question. That's a good question. Volley, volley, volley. Oh, give me some names. Give me some names.
Well, while you're thinking about that, also think about the person that might be the intangibles. So maybe has the drop shot, the court craft. I mean,
I
Mukova's got to
like
be up there,
the
hasn't she?
right. I like the drop shots of Onjabeur for
On Jabeur.
sure. Oh my God, yes, of
Can't
course,
imagine why you said that.
magical, absolutely
Yeah,
magical.
she's good.
I
Yeah, and
really like
volleys. That's
hmm?
your last bit. The volley.
The volley. Yes, so many. There's good volleyers out there. I don't want to say Justina Nan as well because she kind of had that.
I, you can have
Um,
that. You can have her again.
okay, let's say Justine as well when
Yeah.
it comes to the
Who
volley.
was the toughest person that you played? The one you just couldn't beat, or you couldn't work out how to overcome?
Oh, that's a good yeah. Because I played against a lot of tough players, but I think I had a chance and I should have won against Wozniacki. We played 3, 4 times. She always beat me. Sharapova, I had her like 3 times. I played really good against her every single time. The first encounter was the closest when I lost 7-6 in the third.
Mm.
And we were so close. I mean, anybody could have won. And I felt like that match could have been mine. I feel like, I kind of deserved that match. And I think Kuznetsova, I played 2 times against her, but I didn't really come close against Kuznetsova. It's also true that against some of these players, when I was when I had them in front of me, I wasn't at full capacity. I was either coming back from an injury or something, and I felt like I wasn't really there.
Yeah.
With Wozniacki, for example, I think I can name I can call only one match, not even that one, where let's say the forces were equal. I was coming either after so many matches, 5, 6 matches in a row. She only played one, and she was fresh, and I was exhausted. Same thing happened in Kuala Lumpur. I had so many long matches. I played against her in the final. She had a walkover. She had a bye, and I spent 20 hours on court, and I won the first set against her, but then I died. I couldn't anymore. I left my heart out in the first set. Um, and another time I was coming after antibiotics. I
Ah,
couldn't really breathe on court. And with Wozniak, if you're not there 100%, I mean, she
yeah.
was so resilient. She was going to play with you till the next week.
She would just wear you down. And were there any players in particular that you just had their number? You knew as soon as you were drawn against them and you stepped on court that you were going to win?
You know what? Weirdly, yes, but not on very determined and very logical factors. Like, it didn't mean that, let's say people would be like, oh, Dulgheru is playing against this one, oh, she's going to win 100%. No, but it's weird how it goes. I think it's just the feeling that you have inside of you,
Definitely.
that it's just a feeling. It's not, because I
Yeah.
was never cocky. I wasn't a cocky player, but I just had a feeling. Like, let's say Putintseva, right? Like Putintseva, I played against her 4 times. All our matches were tough, and somehow I managed to win every single time. I mean, out of those 4 times, I remember once or twice I didn't really play that great, and she should have beat me. But somehow I still found a way to come back and play well. And Putintseva can play
Yeah.
really well. I don't know. That was one case. Sorry, Rani, same thing. We played
Oh,
5 times. I think she beat me the very last time, but we played so many like crazy matches when Sarah Rani was at her best level. And at some point, she led in Barcelona. It was 2010. She led 5-1 in the third set. She still didn't beat me. You know what I mean? She should have. I mean, she was leading 5-1. After that match, I won 7-6 in the third. I don't know how I did it. I was just
she
like,
must hate your guts. Absolutely hate your guts now.
yeah, exactly. No, and you know what she did? But I would have probably done the same. And then in the tiebreak, I think I had some lucky shots, 2 of them. She was already losing it. I won the match. She didn't even shake my hand at the end.
Ooh.
She was like, "You're so lucky. It's like, this is not possible. Like, what did you take? Like, this is like pure luck. Like, da 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 da." I didn't do anything to her. I was feeling bad about her because if I would have been in her shoes, I would probably said the same things. She
Yeah,
didn't
she's a
shake my hand. She
competitor.
didn't shake Empire's hand. Crazy story with that one. I played against her same. So after Barcelona, I played Rome. I'm playing Rome and I'm drawing her first round in Rome. Imagine in Italy, right? And I'm playing on Foro Italico. I'm playing on not the Foro Italico, the main stadium
Yep. In the
from
Foro Italica.
in the Foro Italico, correct? And imagine, like, I think I don't remember if I managed to warm up on that stadium. And for those who don't know this, you need to play on a stadium before your
Yes.
match, because the whole perspective is different. You have to adjust with the distance between the baseline and the back of the court, and how far the ball goes, because sometimes it feels like you're not hitting strong enough because the court is so big. So you got to go play. So I think that I don't remember if I practiced on that one. I go into the match. That stadium particularly is not open up like this. It's kind of like this. So it's very aggressive, has a very aggressive angle. So when you go into the court and you see all those people, it feels like everybody's on top of you.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit
Lots of
overwhelming.
Italians on top of you.
And imagine playing against an Italian. I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be Alex, please. I was only focusing on, please, please, just don't blow it up. Because I knew that after a set, maybe I would start feeling better. But please don't blow it up. Just focus. Just put the ball in the court. I wasn't even thinking about too many tactics.
Yeah.
And I drew her again. I knew it was going to be hard, but at the same time, in a way, I had the confidence that I could do it. And I go there. I lose the first set. But I was so calm about it. I lose the first set. I felt the tension of my racket was too tough. And I called my coach and I said, "Can you please string it like a little bit looser? I just don't like the tension." And with Sarah, because she had those spins and everything, I
Yes.
needed my ball to run. I felt it wasn't damaging her too much. I changed the racket after, I know it took 10 minutes for the new racket to come in. I won 6-3, 6-4. But then what happened in the third set, I think it was 5-4 for me. She was serving. Look, I'm not usually a super lucky player, but look what happened. 30 all, she's serving. Um, she serves. I return, was with the lat and, in her court like
Just-
that.
yeah.
30-40 match point for me. First serve out, second serve, I step in aggressively, same thing, another lat. So two of them in a row. 30 all, 30-40. She couldn't do anything about it. She could have been Federer. She couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was feeling so bad. I was like, she's gonna kill me. I was afraid to go out. She's gonna kill me. After we go off the stadium,
Yeah.
I gotta protect myself. So I go to the net, and I could see her face. She was fuming. She was fuming, and then because she was in front of her own stadium, she tried to behave, but I think she gave me the most "fu" kind of shake, like leave me alone, something like that. And I was like, oh my god, I was like, I
Oh,
was
that's
so
brilliant.
embarrassed. I didn't want to end the match like that. And then I thanked the whole stadium, but I was like sorry, sorry, sorry,
I'm about to
sorry.
leave now.
I'm about to leave. I'm gonna leave very fast, I promise. So, stories like that. So yeah,
I love it.
I had a few players against whom I won like many times, but not because I was supposed to win so many times. It was just a thing. Maybe they didn't like my tennis, or maybe I adapted better to their game style. I
Yeah.
think that's what it is.
I love the way that tennis players can recount things from years back, particular points. It's unbelievable. I always say that tennis players are like elephants. They just never forget,
But
particularly when lucky things, good
but it's
things.
weird because some matches you remember like it was yesterday, and
Yeah.
then I met with my ex coach a few days ago, and he's like, "Hey, do you remember that match here?" And I was like, "What? Did I play that tournament? I didn't even remember that I played that particular tournament." So it's weird how you
That's so
remember things.
great. Any other great stories that you remember? Anything
Oh my
that
god, I have
happened?
so many great stories, but I
Well,
think we need
let's
more
kick them off.
podcasts.
Let's go. If you've got any travel stories, I love a travel story that went wrong or
Oh
something
my god,
crazy that happened. What's the
so many
craziest
stories
thing that happened
go
to you in your
wrong.
career?
Well, before I go on to that one, I want to leave out because we're talking about the coaches. I told you that Daniel Dobre was my favorite, but then I did really well with the Spanish people as well. I afterwards, I said I'm going to try out because I knew the coaches here. I said I have to try out other coaches abroad, and I think the Spanish mentality also helped me a lot in my career. I think it was meant to be, to be with them because I wanted to see how how their mentality was, how they're approaching tennis, having so many good players in the
Mm,
background, and it helped me a lot because maybe they didn't have the same creativeness as this coach had with me, but they had other let's say other assets, and they're very hardworking, very good in tennis and physical training. Like I was super fit when I was with them, and they have this sort of relaxed, like tennis is tennis. We focus, but then let's enjoy life a little bit as well.
yep,
In Romania, we don't have that as much. We were like focused, kind of like serious all the time.
yeah.
But then I managed to relax a bit more, and to finally, I mean, to see tennis from two different perspectives. That it's all right, to feel comfortable and happy afterwards. And it actually helped me in tennis too. I did even better in tennis because I managed to relax and have good vibes around me. They're like, Alex, what more do you need? Look, it's sunny outside, it's warm, it's winter, and you're practicing at 15 degrees in Valencia when everywhere else. Like, enjoy, smile, like life is beautiful. When someone starts the day off like this, like nothing can
Great.
go wrong. Even if you're losing a match, you're like, hey, it doesn't matter. I know next time I'm going to do better. So that helped me a lot.
We
Like,
all need that
and I want
attitude
to
at
thank
all
them too
times.
for that. Yeah.
All right, now go to the funny story. Come
Crazy
on.
story, crazy. I have a lot of them. Okay, I'll go quickly. Crazy, crazy story. 2010, I think it was Rome. Second year. No, third year or 2011. I don't remember. Um, I we were warming up. Four of us on a court because it was raining, it was pouring, and they couldn't quickly, dry out all the courts, and they kind of stacked four like really good players on one court. It was Dementieva and I on one side. It was Petkovic and Ribarikova on another side. And I was warming up with Ribarikova, and we're playing the crosses, the volleys, you know how it is. And then we started to serve. And when you serve, it's a little bit tricky because if your partner is serving from the other side, let's say it's
Yeah.
deuce, and then this one here serves as well, and this your partner serves down the tee, right? Because he kind of crosses and he can hit you. So you gotta serve a little bit more to the exterior. So what happened is that we started serving. We tried to find some coordination, and Ribarikova serves on the white side at first, and then she serves on the tee. But then
Okay.
Dementieva was a little bit close to the tee, and she already served like two really good serves close to the line. And I think one of them I hit, but so close to Elena that I was like, oh my God, that was like risky, right? Then she serves another great tee serve on the line, and I don't know, I barely touched it. Third in a row, she serves again on the line. It skid from the line. I didn't hit it with my strings. I hit it with the frame.
Yeah.
The Mendieva was here, so from my frame, with that power from the serve, it went straight like a bullet into her
Ouch.
eye,
Oh.
into her eye, right or left eye, I don't remember. But she was screeching out of pain,
Oh.
and she couldn't
And
she
panic.
couldn't like she at first she was just crying like this, and then she was on her knees like a baby, and she stood there for like good couple of minutes, and then she was crying uncontrollably because she couldn't control the flow of the tears,
Of
and
course.
she couldn't really open her eye. And I was like, I didn't know what to do. I was like, oh my God, let me call the doctor, the physio. I'm so sorry. And so in the end, the physio was called on court. She was crying. Her mom came on court. Like, can you imagine a full grown up woman crying? Because the pain must have been
Oh.
excruciating. And she couldn't really open her eye. And when she took her hand off, it was swollen already. So I think she pulled out of Rome. I think she did, because she had to go to the doctor. Then I think she had to go to the hospital, and her eye was very red and very swollen. Luckily,
Yeah.
just that, but she couldn't. It was risky for her to play. She couldn't even properly
Of
see the
course.
ball.
I
Uh,
asked you for a funny story,
it's
Alex.
not funny. I know this is not funny. This is just the one of the
That's
craziest.
incredibly painful.
It was very painful, and I felt so bad. I was like, I think I said sorry to her 1,000 times, and
1,000, yeah, I'm
mom,
sure.
and and then the following day, what happens? So again,
Is
I
this bit funny?
no, same thing. Same thing, but it stops there. It's not going to be painful anymore. So we're doing the same thing in four, and at this time I'm playing with Petkovic, right? I'm warming up with her. I don't know who was on the other side, and we kind of do the same thing, and the same thing kind of happens. And I hit the frame. This time around, that the other player wasn't serving, was just hitting cross courts or whatever, and Andrea is like, Alex, please, please, okay, you're a menace, okay, you're trouble for everybody. I said, I'm not a trouble. Stop hitting the lines, right? Because you're hitting the lines, and it's like it's not my fault. So I said, okay, look, just serve out wide both ways. When they're
Yeah,
done serving, then we can serve,
then you can
all over
serve
the
tea.
place.
Oh my
Yeah,
god,
that
that's
was really
hilarious.
crazy.
I was just wondering if that led to Elena Dementieva hitting 50-mile-an-hour serves for the rest of her career, just the fact that she only had
That
one
wasn't
good
for
eye,
me.
but that
That
would be
wasn't for me.
mean.
She was doing that
I wouldn't
before.
yeah, I wouldn't say that. Let's finish now because we're almost at an hour, and I promised you 45 minutes, but I knew in my heart
I
that
knew,
there's
yeah,
no
me
way
too.
that we were gonna speak for less than an hour.
Okay, let me tell
So
you
I
one
would
more
like
story. This is just I wouldn't say it's funny, but I think it's something that people just we have so many candid stories and so many unrealistic stories that just when you say them out loud, people don't believe you. Um 2014, I think it was 2014, I had to play against Sharapova on center court at the US Open. And I was coming from a really nasty, like a wrist injury.
okay.
So it happened already in the States. I went there to play Cincinnati, New Haven, and then the US Open. I played Cincinnati, and I had, oh, look at that. What's his name?
My name, my dog's name is Light. He's for everybody listening on audio. The dog has just come up, and Alex has got completely distracted. Right, carry on,
They're
Alex.
very distracted. He's such a cutie. Um, so in Cincinnati, I had to pull out of the tournament during the match after the first set because I felt like a sharp pain in my wrist and I couldn't serve anymore. I couldn't
Yeah.
hit. And I was already in the States. What was I going to do? I was preparing for the US Open. I talked to my Spanish coach and he said, Alex, look, we'll pull out of New Haven as well, whatever we need, just to get you ready for the US Open, because that's where you want to, perform in the end. But I said, yeah, what are we going to do? Like a lot of investigations. Apparently, there was like a bone fragment. It can happen. Tennis players have a lot of bone fragments that are loose in the wrist because of so much pressure and so much,
Yeah.
like power. So I had one right here in this ligament. So whenever you do this at every single shot, right, it was bothering this. So one loose bone got stuck in the ligament, and after half an hour of play, not even, it was so swollen I couldn't grip the racket anymore. It was very painful. All right, so we didn't need any surgery. There was, because my first question every time is like, do we need surgery? I said, no, okay,
Yes.
fine. Okay. So what can we do? And they're like, okay, you want to play the US Open? There's not much we can do, but we can try and inject, cortisone, because that can help. Don't do it too many times in your career. Just, it's good for emergency
Yeah.
purposes. It takes the swelling down. Da, 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 da. I said, okay, let's do that. I did it. I had to keep myself fit somehow. I was like, how am I going to keep myself fit if I'm not playing anything? So we had to invent all sort of things. A lot of physical training, a lot of shadowing without the racket on court, and we're like doing 1 hour of moving around as if I was practicing, imitating the serve, and then the coach would just point directions where to go and hit a forehand or a backhand, whatever, just to keep fit. Then I think 2 weeks passed, or almost 2 weeks, and then I started taking the racket in my hand and say, okay, can I play? Can I play? So it was still feeling a little bit weird. I started practicing a little bit at the US Open. When I was practicing, it wasn't that bad, but I felt like it wasn't, my wrist wasn't strong enough. I said, okay, let's play some points. Problem was that the biggest problem was when I was playing points, because when I had to return, and let's say someone's serving really powerfully, like the shock of blocking the return was going straight
Yeah.
here. So I was like, geez, I was so depressed. I was like, man, like I thought it was going to be okay because it didn't feel that bad. I said, but I can't return. How can I play the bloody tournament without managing to return, right? So I was like so disappointed, and I didn't want to make a fool of myself, because sometimes, people are like, oh, you went all the way to the US Open, you could have abandoned. And I said, yeah, but I worked so hard to play the Grand Slam. And so luckily, that's what I'm saying. In a way, it was very good to be with Spanish people, because they have so many players, and they have the capability to send out doctors and physiotherapists, just
Ah,
for the whole team, just the doctor of the Spanish team. They doesn't matter what. Um, so my coach talked to one of Rafa's, you know, um, doctors, who's
people.
also the doctor of the whole Spanish team, not only Rafa's. And he was like, look, Angel, I think it was Angel, is like, we have a problem here. So Alex has to play, obviously, but her wrist hurts a lot. Like, can we do one of those anesthesia and those shots of anesthesia?
Yeah.
I was like, what are you talking about? It's like, yeah, what we can do, but this is in extreme cases, like, because you have to match to play. It's urgent. You need to do it. Like, when you have a painful area, we inject a little bit of anesthesia so you can't feel the pain anymore, but it's
Mm.
going to hurt like crazy afterwards. So we don't
Yeah.
encourage you to do this for a long time, but maybe for a match or two. I said, whatever, just give it to me, because there's nothing else I can do. I said, I'm not gonna. You don't have to do it now. We're gonna do it half an hour before the match. It's like, okay, like I felt like I was going to an exam
Yeah.
without learning anything before the test. And I was playing first round against Pliskova, the lefty, Christina.
Yes.
It's like, she's
Christina.
going to kick my
Yes.
tushy. Sorry, this part of my language, but she's going to bring me too, because I could maximum just play a little bit of tennis and just 2, 3 returns. That's it.
Yeah.
I said, oh, it's like, what am I going to do? I go into the match. No, before the match, half an hour before, I said, I go to the doctor. He injects this anesthesia. Felt a little bit painful. And I said, well, what am I supposed to feel? I said, it should be getting numb, like give it 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then it should be like really numb, and you're not going to feel anything for a while. I said, okay. So I started warming up and stuff. And I kind of started feeling it numb and my fingers here. I was like, I think this is it. And I started moving around. I said, I think it's not too bad, right? I go on court. I warm up. I was like, okay, it's not bad. I start serving everything. Okay, it's not bad, right? And I think I won that match only because I was so excited to play after so much, stress bottling up. I felt free.
Yeah.
And because I kept my physical form and shadowing and whatever I was doing, I kind of kept my perspective over,
Yeah.
playing tennis. And I played so well. I won 6-4, 6-3, I think. I just couldn't believe I won that match. And I was talking to
How
my
was your
coach.
wrist afterwards?
First of all, my coach was very proud because he said, I had a lot of girls in this situation, they would have given up or something. And you
Yeah.
kept your head cool. You
Yeah.
didn't complain. You did it. Well done to you. And after the match, Candy, at first I felt a little bit of, then when I was just moving a little bit, it was hurting everywhere. I was just not even this. This is heavy, but I was
Yeah.
getting, I don't
Something
know,
really light and it was
really
hurting.
light. Let's say this.
Mm.
I couldn't. It's like
Yeah.
I couldn't really keep
Mm.
it. It was falling off my hands. Next day, I tried to brush my teeth. I couldn't even do this to brush my teeth. I
Yeah,
had
I
to
can
brush my
imagine.
teeth with my left hand. And I had a day break between matches, and I was playing against Sharapova the third day. I was like, I'm really going to make a fool of myself, because it's probably going to be a center court. Um, I was talking to my coach. I said, it hurts like crazy. I said, we're not going to practice today. Nothing. I
Yes.
sit physio. We're going to do the same thing before the match. Just do a bit of physical because I had my schedules and I just did a bit of physical. And the following day, I found out that I was going to play on Arthur Ashe, right? I was like, "Shit, I gotta warm up," and same thing. But I couldn't even warming up. It was hard. I think I warmed up only
With
for
the
15.
anesthetic?
No, warming up without it. I think I
Oh,
was able just for 15 minutes to hit, not more.
yeah.
And the coach said, "We'll focus more on sprints before the match, a little bit of shadowing, more of that, and we'll do the injection." I couldn't even play on Arthur Ashe because I had to be there at 8 a.m. in the morning, and my match was around 5 p.m. I said, I'm not
Mm.
gonna go that early, to wait around till 5 p.m.
Yes.
for the match. I just warmed up on a regular court. And like a drug addict, I was looking for a doc, like, I want the
I
shot.
want my drugs.
Where's my shot? Where's my shot? Where's my shot? Right? He does it again, and this time around it felt even more numb. Like my hand felt even more numb than the day before. And I go into the whole, the arena, and at first, like, it's huge because it's the biggest arena ever. And
It
even
is.
when I was serving, I could see chairs and people. And Maria, when you're warming up with her, usually she doesn't give you a lot of rhythm. She hits a little bit with you, and then she
Yeah.
just hits winners. So
Yeah.
you don't get to properly warm up. Probably her style. That's what she really wants to do. So I couldn't really, because I was really hoping that after the anesthesia I could hit a little bit more in the warm up so I could get a little bit of rhythm, but she wasn't giving me any rhythm. I said, bloody hell. I was like, I'm starting on this stadium. First of all, like, everything was too big. I tried to, I said, Alex, try to focus. You don't have too much time to adapt. Try to adapt as quickly as you can.
Yes.
And I was just counting on my legs. I said, I'm counting on my legs to reach every single ball. I don't know how much control I'm going to have, but I need to focus. So she starts with to love. I couldn't really feel my hand yet. Like, I didn't have good feeling on my racket. It's like, oh God, please not, please, 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 like, please help me feel this, because I felt like I was moving well. Like, please, 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 I need to feel my racket. I need to feel the forehead. I need to feel it. Then I think after the third game, I started feeling better. I started warming up, and then it was 3-2 for me, I think, and then
Oh,
6-3 for me.
oh,
I
wow.
won the set. I was like, whoa. I was like, I can't believe this. It's like crazy. And I made some really cool shots. Like, I felt like I was finally in the match. And I was so much zoomed in. I was like, that's where I want to be. And I had a thought, after the set. I said, if I can keep up with this, I think I can bother her, but I hope I can keep up. Because what happened, I think after 3-2 in the second set, it started to wear off because I
Oh,
think
no.
it was too big. It started to wear off, and then I felt like I didn't have that much control and power,
Yeah.
mostly on the forehand, because in the backhand I can use the left hand, but on the forehand it was only this. So there were
Mm.
moments I literally felt like I needed to grip it, with my other hand, just to be able to push it. And then my speed wasn't the same. And then she had more time to step in, and she made me run around more than I wanted to. I think it was 6-3, 6-2 for her in the end. But I was a little bit sad because, I knew my level of tennis dropped because of that. And I thought maybe if it could have lasted for a little bit longer, I could have bothered her, much more. I mean, it wasn't a really straight 6-3, 6-2. It was still playable, but it wasn't the
Yep.
same thing. And so I finished that. The match was really good. She was angry because I think she didn't like playing against me. Every match she kind of struggled. I also had a good tactic against her. I was not giving her too much angle, like a lot of middle and then opening up the court, and I was running around really well. And then I was talking to one of my doctors in Switzerland. I tried to find like a good doctor for the wrist, and someone gave me this contact, and I talked to him, and wait, I already knew him a year before, I remember. And I talked to him, I said, look, I have this strong pain in my wrist, and he sees the match, and he's like, oh my God, Alex, you played so well. Yeah, go on and play Asia as well. Go play for the rest of the year. And I said, wait, hold on, hold on. It was a miracle that I was able to play this
Yeah.
tournament. And I told him what happened, what I did. And he was like, oh, no, 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 no. Oh, no, no, no. Then if you play, I said, I can't even, right now, I can't talk to you on the phone. I said,
Yeah.
you gotta come see me. So I saw him, and of course I needed surgery, but it wasn't that bad. He just needed to take out the little bony fragment. That's it. He didn't
Okay.
have to work on the ligament or anything. He took out the bony fragment. He suited up really nicely. And I think in 2 months I was playing.
Oof. Good story though. And you almost got
Crazy
Maria
story.
Sharapova with one wrist. I
Oh my
like it.
God, that would have been amazing.
That would have been an even better story had you beaten her.
And to finish
Right,
it
let's
with an even like it's sad, but it's interesting. Every single time I play Sharapova, in 2 months' time, I had a surgery.
oh no. So you
One
didn't
time I
want to
had
play her
knee
at all.
surgery. Another time I had the other two times I had wrist surgery after
Oh
playing with
no.
against.
So she did something to you
It
that
was a bad omen. When I
quite
was
nice.
when I saw her, it's like, oh my God, something bad is going to happen.
Yeah, she's kind of doing and making you injured. Right, let's finish with this. So we've been asking people on the podcast recently about their dream road trip companions. This started in Indian Wells, but I'm going to change yours just slightly. So you've got 3 people in the car with you, and you're going on a road trip. I would like the coolest person that you know on the tennis circuit, the funniest person you know on the tennis circuit, and the most dependable person on the tennis tour. So there
Oh,
we go.
that's
You've
good.
got to live with these people. It's a road
You got
trip.
the
So it's
coolest, you
the
got the
coolest, the
funniest.
funniest, and the most dependable person from your tennis times.
Right. Um, I would say funniest en jabeur.
Okay, so we're going funniest on Shabir.
Coolest, I would take Carlos Alcaraz, although he's not, my generation.
No, that's
Um,
okay. You can have Carlos. He'd like that. I'm sure he'd like it to be
yeah,
with
he's
you
a
in
funny
Lens.
guy. I'm telling you, I met him, and he's such a sweetheart. He
He
has
is a
an
sweetie.
amazing, cool soul. He's such a kid. He's a kid
Yeah,
in an adult body, and he
he's a
loves
great,
playing
grown-up
tennis.
buddy with
Literally,
an amazing smile.
he
And then
is. He is
dependable, because you need someone dependable who's going to do the right thing, who's
responsible
going
and
to take you to
dependable
the right
because
spot.
between Ons, Carlos, and I, was just too much, like too much talk and too much
That's
he
good.
ha.
It's going to be all over the place. You'll find
Right,
yourself completely the wrong direction in about
right.
15
I would
hours.
I would take someone that's so responsible. Um, hold on. I think I would take Agnieszka Radwanska because
Oh, that's great.
she's funny, but she's also very like well organized. She has
Love
both
that.
sides. Yeah.
And she, of course, is a co-head coach with Mark Gellard, my co-host on this podcast for Magdalenette. So that
So her
brings it
or Flavia
beautifully
Pennetta.
round.
She's also fun and very responsible.
Brilliant. Okay, we've got your 3. Alex Dulgheru, it's been wonderful to speak to you. I think we could do this again about 10 times more. If you're up for it, I am.
I'm up for it, and next time I'll tell you funny stories.
All right,
I
perfect. Rather
told
than
you
really,
sad
really
stories,
painful ones. I
sad and
think
painful ones. Yeah,
I think in Romania it got lost in translation, funny and
I got
painful.
lost in
So
translation.
maybe next time
I
I'll
didn't know
ask you
if
for
I
your
should
most
go with
painful
the.
stories.
I wanted to go with the most shocking ones. So
Yeah. Well,
here you go.
thank you. Elena Dementieva hates you still. I should think
Probably.
her and
Yeah.
her
Her
right eye.
dreams.
All right. Thank you very much and speak
Thank you,
soon.
Candy.
Thank you for watching Diary of a Professional Tennis Coach. Please like, subscribe and share, and we'll be back soon with another great episode.